Hi, I'm Steve, and I make everything, and welcome back to my shop. This past week, someone came to me and asked me if I could make them a custom ink stamp, and I thought, why not? I've got the materials, it'll be pretty simple, and I thought, hey, I should make a video of this so you know how to make these too, and that's what we'll do this time. It won't be a very difficult project, it'll be a quick video, and hopefully you get something out of it. Okay, so before we get going here, just a crash course on the material we're going to use. And this material is this flexible rubber sheet that you can buy on Amazon. It's laser safe. It's relatively cheap. It comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets and it ships really quickly. If you're a Prime member, you get it in a couple of days. You can also get a gray material. It's available in a lot of places. I have seen it at Trotec if you buy materials through Trotec. It tends to be a little bit more expensive, but it's honestly better material than this. But for this purpose of this video, this material will be fine for us. So without going into too much detail here, what I did was I fired up Inkscape and just grabbed a piece of clip art off of Google Images and threw something together here quick. And I thought, hey, I'm a YouTube channel, so why not just make a sign that says, or a stamp that says likes are free? And they are. So by all means, if you like the video, please click that thumbs up. So like I said, I won't go into a whole lot of detail here, but suffice it to say I have everything here that's black will ultimately be raised on the stamp, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. And then I have a red outline to cut. And I also use this same red outline for the cut lines for my base for this stamp. And I'll show you that as we go. So that's all we did in Inkscape. I just exported this to a PDF file and we can load it into our laser software. So I've got my laser software up and running now, and this is actually the simulator, so I don't have all the laser noise in the background, but it works exactly the same way. So I'll import my PDF file I created, and you'll see that it is a vector and a raster, and normally I usually pick one or the other. This time we're actually going to load both. And the reason for that is because we want the image to be, and let's just zoom in on it here. We want the image to be the vector, or the raster rather, and we want the cut outline to be the vector. So what I'll do is I'll go in and turn off all of the vector pieces that are part of the image, but I'm not actually going to use those because they're part of I'll get them from the raster. And so I'll just turn all of those off, and you can see that they're kind of disappearing from the workspace here. So now I have just the outline, the cut line, and my image. Now, if I put this to the laser right now, when I get my stamp done, it will be backwards because what we want to cut is a mirror image. And the way to do that is we can select it, and I mentioned in a previous video that we can flip things, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to flip it so it's backwards. Right now, if I cut this as well, anything that's black will actually be engraved. And I want exactly the opposite. I want all of the white pieces here to be engraved. Now, there's a nice trick in most laser software, but certainly in Retina Engrave 3, what I can do is just invert this image, and you can see how simple that was. We don't have to play around too much in our drawing tool. We can draw it just the way we actually want to see it, and here we can do all the work. What I did when I exported this is I actually exported it as a 500 dpi image. We want that resolution when we engrave this. So what I'll do is I'll change the resolution of the raster. I have the raster selected here. I'll change it to 500 by 500. Now when we're cutting this rubber, what we need to do is use full power, but we want to go very slow with this. And I'll slow the speed down to maybe, let's do 9. We want to make sure we get a good deep engrave there. Otherwise, when you press this down, the rubber will compress and you may actually get ink splashed in from the pieces that are engraved. So this will make sure that the engraving is nice and deep. Now, the last thing we need to do is set the power for the cut, and 100% power again, just like we did on the raster. And for the cut here, I'll actually go 20 Again, we want to go fairly slow so that we ensure we cut through it. Rubber's pretty dense material, and we want to make sure that we get it through in a nice clean cut. So there's our layout, and we can just shoot this to the laser now and get an image. So now we'll laser engrave this this stamp, and so I've got it put in the laser. You can see it there, and the engraving happens really quickly. This is only a 30 by 30 millimeter stamp, so it is pretty small. That's a little over an inch square. And when I did this, I also shut off all of the raster image just so I was left with the red outline, and I used that to cut just three squares out of a piece of Baltic birch, and I'll show you. We'll glue all that together and make just a block that we'll stick the stamp onto. And now that we have it, we can start working towards that. All right, so when we pull this off the laser, you can see it's pretty dirty. There's a lot of dust from the engraving, and it honestly doesn't look like it's engraved that well. But we'll clean it up, and you'll see that it turns out to be a really nice stamp. Okay, so we're going to clean this up now, and you can see it's just the dust actually just comes off with a bit of water and a brush. I use a toothbrush. The most important tip in this video is don't use your own toothbrush. Use your spouse's or use somebody else's in the house. Seriously, I just have a bunch of old toothbrushes that I use, and you can see with just a bit of minor rubbing and some water, this thing comes out nice and clean. And we'll just do a bit of a drying off, and our stamp will be finished. So now let's put the finishing touches on this. We have our stamp. We have these three squares that I cut out, which are the same size as the stamp. And we're just going to need a bit of super glue. So all I did, you could certainly build a nicer handle for these if you wanted to. You could either 3D print it or just make it out of material. But I just glued these three pieces of Baltic birch together, and quickly, the super glue is nice because it sticks things instantly. So I stuck them together, and then I just used the same super glue to glue the stamp on. Super glue on this rubber is, it will stick, but the nice thing is you can actually peel it off if you want to. So you have to work at it a bit, but it will peel off. So if you decided you needed to change your stamp, or you wanted a different stamp of some sort, you could just peel it off and put on another one. And there we go. We have our stamp. Press it down just to make sure, and we're finished. And as I said, it was an easy project. So there you have it. Our stamp is done, and the ultimate is to test it. And so I just grabbed an ink pad, and these come from Amazon. You can get them in packs of a dozen different colors. They're really cheap, and you'll get to see the very first unscripted stamp. And you can see, it turned out pretty well. You will find that as you blot these things a few times, they get better. It seems like they need to, the ink needs to kind of set into the rubber a bit, but after 3 or 4, it looks great. So there you have it. As advertised, you now know how to make stamps, and as promised, it was pretty easy. So, sit down on a Saturday afternoon with your kids and make these, and they will no doubt come up with some really crazy ideas for stamps. Be careful, of course, because they'll stamp everything, at least if they're like my kids when they were young. Anyway, that's the video, and as always, I'll put an additional video on the side. If you're interested, I'll see you over there. And as always, have fun and go make your world.